Thank you for joining us for CBN News Watch. I'm Ephraim Graham. Ahead today, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu warning a bad deal is worse than no deal when it comes to the Iran nuclear talks. And we're going to hear about a plan to create a Palestinian state in the biblical lands of Judea and Samaria. President Donald Trump reaching his first 100 days in office today. We're going to take a look at the highs and lows, from concerns over tariffs to his success in cutting off illegal immigration, along with the White House outreach to Christians and people of faith. The Supreme Court set to hear a pivotal case on a charter religious school, and positive signs of the spreading of the gospel in a place which has not been friendly to it, the United Kingdom. All those stories and more right now on CBN News Watch.
This is CBN News Watch.
I want to begin this Tuesday in the Middle East, where diplomatic talks could have a major impact on the future of Israel, as the Israeli government is paying close attention to the U.S. nuclear talks with Iran. And there's discussion of creating a Palestinian state out of the biblical heartland of Judea and Samaria. CBN Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell brings us the story. He's reporting from Jerusalem.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says any deal must deny Iran a path to a nuclear weapon.
A bad deal is worse than no deal. We need a good deal.
At the JNS International Policy Summit, Israeli Strategic Affairs Minister Ron Dermer noted President Trump pulled out of the previous nuclear deal with Iran signed by President Obama, called the JCPOA.
And I have a lot of confidence that President Trump would walk away from a bad deal today, just as he walked away from a bad deal then. And I think he's been very clear. Iran's never going to have a nuclear weapon.
America's new ambassador to Israel told the conference Monday that if Iran doesn't abandon its quest for nuclear weapons, President Trump, quote, won't be dragged into a war, he'll lead it.
I think the president has been as clear as any political figure in history in saying that if they don't, there will be no holding back. And those are his words. Those are his policies.
Ambassador Huckabee also spoke of the evil Hamas committed on October 7th, when it invaded Israel and brutalized, tortured, and slaughtered pregnant women, babies, the elderly, and the disabled.
Who does that? People who are evil, that's who. This is a vertical battle between heaven and hell, between good and evil. The United States of America and President Trump stands for good and not evil, and that's why he has made it very clear that Hamas has no future in Gaza or anywhere else on this earth.
Some still argue permanent peace in the Middle East can be achieved through the so-called two-state solution, carving a Palestinian state out of Judea and Samaria, the biblical heartland of Israel.
The idea is folly, nothing more than folly. We just tried a Palestinian state in Gaza. You saw what that brought, right?
In Gaza, he insisted not only must Hamas go, but the Palestinian Authority can't take over.
Why replace one regime that is sworn to our destruction with another regime that is sworn to our destruction?
As for handing Judea and Samaria to the Palestinian Authority, Huckabee pointed out that God gave the Jews that land long, long ago.
Israel is a chosen place for a chosen people, for a chosen purpose. And I say that not because I'm Jewish, I say it because it's true. And I affirm that which has been the truth for 3,500 years. This is his land.
And he still guards it.
Because the only explanation for the creation and the survival and the victory of Israel is that God's hand is upon this land, and it always will be.
And Chris joins us now with more. So, Chris, how serious is this idea of taking land from Judea and Samaria and making a Palestinian state there? Has that plan gotten any traction among diplomats?
Well, Ephraim, among some diplomats it has. It's still advocated by the EU and the UN, the Arab League, also countries like Russia, China, the UK, France. But really, over here in Israel, Ephraim, it's really a non-starter, especially after October 7th. The majority of the people are opposing a two-state solution. The majority of the Knesset's actually passed a law about that. Certainly, Benjamin Netanyahu, as you heard in our report, the current government and even the Trump administration is not supporting a two-state solution. So while some people advocate it, it really seems to be a non-starter here, especially after Hamas committed what they did on October 7th. And also people recognize, as Prime Minister Netanyahu said in our report, that the Palestinian Authority is much the same, has the ideology as Hamas. And so that's why a two-state solution here in Israel is really not realistic.
Israeli Strategic Affairs Minister Ron Dermer is expressing confidence President Trump will avoid a bad deal with Iran. But is there still widespread concern over the nuclear talks between Iran and the United States?
Ephraim, very deep concern. In fact, I interviewed a number of people at the JNS conference that we had those clips from Ambassador Huckabee, Prime Minister Netanyahu, and Strategic Minister Ron Dermer. The number one question I felt was, what is President Trump up to? What are these negotiations all about? Are they just giving negotiations one last chance? And also, if there was a deal, would Israel actually bomb Iran if the U.S. and Iran reach an agreement? And then the question is Israel and the White House on the same page? And finally, can Iran be trusted? Few, if any, believe over here that Iran is trustworthy, and most people feel Iran is really just simply talking while they're preparing offensively and defensively in case of any Israeli or U.S. attack, and offensively on their way to a nuclear bomb. So it's a very uncertain time, even though a few weeks ago it seemed like the U.S. and Israel were on the same page and a military campaign it was imminent. It's a very uncertain time, and a lot of questions here in Israel about what's happening with these negotiations.
You just returned from Italy. What is the significance of San Remo in the history of the modern state of Israel?
Well, it's the legal foundation for the modern state of Israel, Ephraim, and it ratified what's called the Balfour Declaration into international law. And the Balfour Declaration called for the reestablishment of a homeland for the Jewish people after 2,000 years. That's never been abrogated. It was ratified by the League of Nations in 1922. Later, the UN grandfathered all these these treaties by the League of Nations into the UN, and it counters the accusations that Israel is an occupier or a colonialist. Israel was given the land from the river to the sea by the San Remo resolution that was ratified by the League of Nations and the UN.
Why do some believe the next 6 months will be decisive for Israel?
Well, first of all, many people are expecting the end of the war in Gaza and hopefully the return of all the hostages. There seems to be a willingness right soon that Israel will actually increase its military campaign to bring the war in Gaza to an end. Also, probably in the next 6 months, somehow, the Iran nuclear program will be dealt with either by perhaps a diplomatic agreement that would eliminate their nuclear program or by a military campaign. Many people are also looking forward to normalizations of Middle East countries with Israel. Number one among them would be Saudi Arabia, but others as well. But to do all that, as Ron Dermer said last night, victory will be essential over Gaza, over Hamas inside Gaza to make all these other things happen.
Before we let you go, what do you have for us on Jerusalem Dateline this evening?
Well, we have updates on the latest things that are happening here. Also a story on Israelis and U.S. veterans dealing with PTSD. We also have a story on the anti-Israel bias among the BBC, but indicative of many other news media ever since October 7th happened. So these are some of the things will be happening. Today's on Jerusalem Dateline.
All right. Thank you. Our CBN News Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell. We appreciate your insights. Looking forward to hearing from you more in the days ahead. Want to remind you at home, you can see the latest Jerusalem Dateline at 8 p.m. Eastern on the CBN News channel. You can also watch it on the CBN News app, or you can find it on YouTube. Coming up here at home, President Donald Trump reaching his first 100 days in office. We're going to look at how he's doing on everything from the economy to Israel and Ukraine and outreaches to people of faith. That's all coming up when we come back. A milestone for President Donald Trump. He reaches his first 100 days in office today, but the historic milestone for the president's second term has brought some tough times for the administration, as well as multiple successes. CBN White House correspondent Kelly Wright brings us the story.
The White House says President Trump's first 100 days has been marked by a series of winning. Polls indicate, however, that for a growing number of people experiencing economic uncertainty due to tariffs, winning feels more like losing.
Do I support what Trump did, which is an arbitrary tariff on virtually every country on earth, which will raise prices substantially for ordinary Americans? No, I don't.
An ABC Washington Post Ipsos poll finds his approval ratings sinking on the economy. A majority of Americans think things are worse now than when he took office. 73% say it's in bad shape. As for other moves, 64% say he's going too far in trying to expand presidential powers. 62% said they don't think his administration respects the rule of law. The president also facing backlash over its immigration actions, including the deportation of multiple women with U.S.-born children. The president's touting results, however, along the U.S.-Mexico border as the #1 accomplishment in his first 100 days. Figures indicate the once massive influx of migrants into the United States is now down to nearly zero. Border czar Tom Homan says the president's plan is working.
President Trump was able to do in 7 to 8 weeks what the Biden administration couldn't or wouldn't do in 4 years, right? So the border's locked down at the highest level ever.
Another promise kept deals with faith, as in creating the White House Faith Office and putting it in the West Wing. Trump also launched a task force on anti-Christian bias. I talked to Paula White-Cain, senior advisor for the Faith Office, about the attention paid to religious liberty.
There will be Muslims, there will be Jewish, there will be Christian, there will be Sikh, there will be people of all faiths. We are here to help people, to defend people, and to protect people of faith.
In foreign affairs, the president continues to work toward bringing peace to the Middle East, including talks with Iran to stop its nuclear program. One promise that remains unfulfilled is brokering an end to the war between Ukraine and Russia. The president met with Ukraine President Zelensky in Rome, where both men attended the funeral of Pope Francis. Secretary of State Marco Rubio says President Trump is hopeful Russia's President Vladimir Putin and Ukraine's Zelensky will agree to a deal for peace.
He's trying to end a 3-year war that has no military solution, where every day people are dying, especially on the Ukrainian side, in many cases civilians and children, as we've seen the images over the last few weeks.
President Trump will celebrate his 100 days in office during a celebratory event in Warren, Michigan, a swing state that he won decisively on his path to becoming the nation's 47th president. At the White House, Kelly Wright, CBN News.
Still ahead, the Catholic online school that could become the nation's first religious charter school. We're going to bring you a look at this important case when we come back. You're watching CBN News Watch. A pivotal Supreme Court case could set a major precedent regarding religious freedom and public schools. The Oklahoma Charter School Board approved a publicly funded religious charter school, the first in the nation. The state's attorney general claims giving government funds to faith-based schools violates the Constitution. CBN's Brody Carter has the details.
If we permit state funding of Christian indoctrination, then we must permit state funding of non-Christian indoctrination, which could include schools of Wicca, schools that worship Satan, schools that indoctrinate in an extreme sect of the Muslim faith, Sharia faith, which would exclude young women.
Oklahoma Attorney General Gentner Drummond is in a battle against the state's charter school board, trying to prevent taxpayer dollars from funding faith-based schools, warning it could open the floodgates.
We already have the Church of Satan that sought an application to fill out. I think they think this is lovely. You know, the Christians are going to fund satanic worship and indoctrination.
Drummond, a Christian, argues the state should not support or sponsor any religion. On the other side, fellow Christian and State Superintendent Ryan Walters sees the priority as getting public money for families so they can send children to the school of their choice.
It's about the freedom to express your religious beliefs without being penalized by the government. And it's about school choice and making sure that parents actually have that power over their kids' education.
Walters, a member of the charter school board, says the public funds would make a difference.
Depends on kind of some other factors, but we're talking about roughly probably $6,000 to $7,000 per child. So that would follow that child there.
In this case, now headed for the Supreme Court later this month, St. Isidore of Seville Catholic Charter School aims to become the nation's first publicly funded religious charter school.
So why this would be so helpful is, as a charter school, when a parent enrolls their child into their school, their taxpayer dollars flow directly to that school. So they have opportunities at funding that a private school would not. If the Supreme Court rules in favor of St. Isidore, what you're going to have are opportunities around the country that have never been given before, which is access to religious charter schools for children, where parents don't have to try to scrape together funds to get their kids a great education.
Critics, including the ACLU and its partners, argue public funding for religious schools violates the separation of church and state while undermining religious freedom. Regarding this case, they state Oklahoma taxpayers, including our plaintiffs, should not be compelled to finance a religious public school that intends to discriminate and indoctrinate students into a singular faith.
It's really disappointing. You know, that's the position that the teachers' unions have taken, the Democrats in state have taken, these radical left-wing groups that have engaged on this issue have taken. I mean, we have seen some radical atheists come in and just say the nastiest things about Christians and about the Catholic Church here.
St. Isidore Catholic School is represented by the First Liberty Institute, which argues that the Constitution's free exercise clause should take precedence over state laws.
That's one of the best baffling things about this case is that this has nothing to do with what someone has to go to school for. This is just offering choices. Think about it. That's the argument. We want to just take this religious faith-based school off the deck as a potential choice for voluntary parents.
Liberty Counsel is also involved. Its chairman, Matt Staver, who started Covenant Journey Academy, an online Christian school, would benefit should St. Isidore prevail.
If Oklahoma wins, that means that Christian schools like Covenant Journey Academy and others around the country could be disqualified from neutral programs that provide school choice opportunities to parents.
This case has captured national focus, with 12 states supporting public funding for religious charter schools. Justice Amy Coney Barrett has recused herself due to a personal connection, potentially setting the stage for a tie. Oral arguments start April 30th, with a decision possible this summer. I'm Brody Carter, CBN News.
Still ahead, good news from the United Kingdom as we're seeing signs of the gospel spreading in a place that hasn't been receptive to it, the United Kingdom. We're going to have the story for you when we come back. You're watching CBN News Watch.
Get your daily quick start from CBN News. A quick read on the important news of the day delivered right to your inbox. Stay current on breaking news, politics, and entertainment. Go to quickstart.news and subscribe today.
For decades, the United Kingdom has been a tough place to reach people with the gospel. But in recent months, evangelists are seeing a change. Not only people wanting to hear the good news, Christians are helping to spread it. As Wendy Griffith reports, many see this spiritual shift there as both real and remarkable.
And to the Lamb be praise and honor and glory.
A group called the King's Army marched near Buckingham Palace recently, proclaiming,
"Who is the King of Kings? Jesus!"
Founder Scott McNamara says they literally felt a change in the atmosphere.
We heard this like shock wave. It was like someone described it like a crack in the spirit. And after that, we did this like march outside Buckingham Palace and a couple of other things. And it's been incredible. Every day we're getting people enlisting to be part of King's Army, like in 20 to 30 enlistees per week at the height of this momentum. Just people reaching out from all over England saying, I want to be part of this movement.
Jesus is King. Jesus is Lord.
After ministering in the streets of London for 10 years, evangelist Stephen Johnson tells CBN News he's never seen people more willing to hear the gospel.
We've actually started an outreach initiative in my home area of London. And the first time we did it, a couple of people just walked into the church afterwards, just wanting to talk. That doesn't really happen in England. We've just seen this kind of thing happen again and again, and something has shifted in people's hearts.
A major difference is that even the younger generation is responding.
It's quite normal to be mocked and ridiculed and heckled. Now we're seeing young people actually come to us for conversations in the street and actually wanting serious conversations. And something has radically changed in people's hearts.
Johnson says people are searching for answers to the world's problems, and what used to be hard is now easy.
If you can turn up on the streets with a bunch of flyers, stop someone and says, what do you know about Jesus? Or are you interested in spiritual things? Just start a conversation. It is not difficult. And for England, of all places, that's a remarkable shift.
This is a picture of Jesus knocking on the door of your heart. The handle's on the inside, which means only you can let him in.
McNamara, who pioneered a ministry called Jesus at the Door in 2014 to help Christians share the gospel, says the Lord recently gave him a global mandate.
He said, I'm raising up an army for the end times, call it the King's Army. I'm going to push back darkness in these end times. The vision for King's Army is really to establish these corps, these regiments in pockets all around the world, to start fires all around the world, where Christians can come and be trained, and together, shoulder to shoulder, they can raise the standard and push back the darkness.
He believes revival will happen
when the church wakes up. Revival comes, and then there will be a great third awakening. So this great commission, this mission that we've been given to go and take back what the devil's stolen, has been given to the church, and the church is waking up to this, and it's beautiful to see.
Wendy Griffith, CBN News.
Time now for your Tuesday Tweetable. I share this message in hopes you will post, tag, tweet, and share it with those in your circles of influence. Remember this, every choice has an invoice. It may not be payable in cash, but there is always a cost. Spend time counting the cost before you make the choice. With that word, I encourage you to make this a terrific Tuesday. It is indeed possible. Well, that will do it for this edition of CBN News Watch. Remember, you can always find more of our news programs on the CBN News channel. You can find them there anytime as well as online. That address is cbnnews.com. Take a moment. Let us know what you think about the stories you've seen here today or any day. You can email us. The address is newswatch@cbn.com. You can also reach out and touch us on Facebook, Instagram, and X, formerly known as Twitter. We look forward to seeing you right back here, same time tomorrow. Goodbye and God bless.